Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we cut through the noise and give you the essential knowledge you need to be well-informed and, frankly, less exhausted.
Yeah, because if you've ever felt that constant, nagging feeling that you're responsible for everyone else's happiness, or if you spend your days trying to manage other people's opinions, moods, or actions, well, you know that exhaustion is real. That feeling of running on empty, that's pretty much the cost of trying to control the uncontrollable.
Exactly. And today we are diving deep into a simple yet profoundly liberating philosophy that our sources call the let them theory. It's really a dual framework designed to stop the bleeding of your energy and, reclaim your internal power.
Right. The sources give us a really clear, actionable guide on how to shift your focus entirely, moving from that anxiety of external management to the peace of internal action.
Our mission today is to break down this philosophy into its two essential parts. First, the let them approach, which is about radical release, sort of surrendering control over others.
And then the second part, the let me approach. That's all about taking deliberate, actionable steps to build the life you actually want.
And we promise this is going to deliver some serious aha moments backed by psychological research, but also really relatable, sometimes chaotic life anecdotes.
That's the key actionable insight. We really want this deep dive to be useful to you.
Absolutely. So if you're ready for more practical insights that distill complex knowledge into simple, life-changing tools, please, right now, hit that like button.
Yeah, and leave a comment letting us know maybe what struggle you hope this framework helps you solve.
And most importantly, subscribe to the deep dive so you never miss another piece of empowering knowledge. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, let's unpack this framework's origin story because, theories like this don't just pop out of a meditation retreat. They're usually forged in the crucible of absolute personal crisis. Our sources start by detailing the author's absolute rock bottom at age 41.
And we really need to sit in this for a moment to understand the depth of the desperation. The numbers are kind of staggering. $800,000 in debt. Unemployed. And her husband's restaurant business was completely crumbling.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine carrying that level of financial anxiety every single day.
It's immense. And it wasn't just financial. It was a profound crisis of identity, too. She'd been chasing professional success for years, feeling constantly behind.
Yeah, the source material lists this whole string of high-stakes, high-effort careers she'd already tried and, abandoned.
Right. She was a public defender. She worked at a big corporate law firm, jumped into the startup world.
Attempted being a life coach, hosted a radio show. And then in one really memorable pivot, she opened a paint-your-own-pottery studio.
It's the sheer volume of attempts, right? It shows she wasn't lazy. She was trying everything, but nothing was sticking.
Exactly. She felt totally lost, believing nothing she did would ever be enough to dig them out of that hole, just crushed by this sense of impending doom and total exhaustion.
And that level of existential pain, that feeling of I have to do something, but I literally can't even move, that's exactly where the first tiny seed of control emerged. And here's where the ideas were, deceptively simple. The 5-second rule.
Yes. So the author realized she was paralyzed in bed every morning, just letting her anxiety and self-doubt completely take over the second she woke up.
Been there.
Right. And in this flash of desperate inspiration, she remembered watching a NASA rocket launch on TV with the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she thought, what if I just counted backward and launched myself out of bed like a rocket?
It sounds almost silly, doesn't it? Like a kid's game, which is probably why her brain didn't immediately just shut it down.
Probably. But she was desperate, and she tried it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she physically pushed the covers off and got out of bed. That small physical action, bypassing all the mental negotiation, that was the first victory. And the profound insight here, and this is really what you need to remember, is that action is the answer. Motivation. It's kind of a myth.
Right. Waiting around to feel brave or feel motivated just means you'll likely never actually do the hard stuff.
Exactly. You have to physically move before your brain has the chance to talk you out of it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Joe.
It becomes this powerful self-rescue mechanism then. You have to actively save yourself from yourself through these small, consistent moves forward all day long.
Yeah, those tiny physical movements like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and starting that difficult email, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and making that scary phone call, they build momentum and, crucially, confidence.
And this tiny personal practice just went absolutely massive, didn't it?
Totally viral. She was apparently nervous to share it publicly for 3 years, feeling unqualified and all that.
Understandable.
But during this anxiety-ridden TEDx talk, she just blurted it out, almost as a desperate filler. And that talk just exploded. became one of the most watched of all time.
The stories she got back were incredible because the rule just worked universally. People used 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for, well, everything.
Overcoming inertia, changing jobs, getting sober, improving health, launching businesses.
And really heartbreakingly, using it to stop themselves from acting on self-harming thoughts. It gives you this instant, simple tool to interrupt negative patterns.
Right. So the 5-second rule was fundamentally about harnessing internal power. It was purely about self-improvement. Here's the crucial transition point.
Okay.
The author realized that while she'd kind of mastered internal control, she was still bleeding energy trying to manage the external world, specifically other people.
Ah, okay. So the let them theory is the next step. It changes your relationship with other people, freeing you from that exhausting cycle of trying to manage them.
Precisely.
So this brings us right to the core conflict we all face, pretty much daily. We spend so much energy, time, and frankly, happiness trying to control things we simply cannot, like other people.
Yeah, we operate under this delusion that if we just find the magic words or bend ourselves backward far enough, everyone will finally be satisfied or happy or approve.
We're driven by this deep need for approval, thinking that if we just shrink ourselves smaller, if we try harder, if we anticipate every possible problem, we can somehow guarantee peace.
But the reality is just crushing, isn't it? Someone still criticizes you, someone still is disappointed, and you're left feeling like it was never enough. It just drains your power and makes you resentful.
Which leads perfectly into the discovery of the let them theory. It came from a moment of pure, unadulterated maternal panic. The son's last-minute high school prom chaos.
Oh, yeah. I think every parent, or really anyone who's ever tried to manage an event, can instantly relate to this kind of frantic energy.
Definitely.
So the background here makes the anecdote land perfectly. The author had apparently done 4 proms with her daughters, meticulous planning, corsages, dinner, photo shoots, like months in advance. Her son, Oakley, the exact opposite.
Typical teenager, maybe.
Right.
0 details, everything a last-minute scramble.
Totally. And she was trying to impose her highly organized, almost corporate lawyer-level planning onto this 17-year-old boy. You can imagine how that went.
Oh, I can picture it. The chaos was legendary, apparently, and the mother was just determined to fix all of it.
Right. She purchased this beautiful, expensive white corsage, which Oakley naturally refused.
Of course.
So she stuck it in her purse, still convinced she could control the outcome somehow. Then, at the pre-prom photos, she sees the date, pulls out that corsage like it was a winning lottery ticket, marches over, insists the girl take it.
Oh, no.
Only to realize the date was already wearing this simple, really meaningful corsage she had made herself. The author said she wished the earth would just swallow her whole. Mortifying.
Yikes. But the real turning point, the emotional peak, happened when it started pouring rain, right?
Yes. The 20 high schoolers, dressed in their fancy, formal best, had no dinner reservation. And instead of the fancy Italian place the parents were hoping for, the kids decided to walk in the downpour.
In the rain. In formal wear.
Yep. To a tiny hole-in-the-wall taco bar called Amigos Taqueria that could barely hold 4 tables.
Oh my God. The parents must have lost it.
They were swarming like wasps, trying to yell, organize Ubers, frantically finding reservations at literally any other place. The author was just spiraling, thinking, they're going to get soaked. They're going to get food poisoning. Their whole night is ruined. Total panic.
Been there.
And that's when her daughter, Kendall, apparently grabbed her arm and delivered this simple, totally revolutionary intervention. Mom, if Oakley and his friends want to go to a taco bar, let them.
Wow.
And then she added, Mom, let them get soaked. Let them get ruined.
That moment, that's the first half of the theory right there. Let them means immediate freedom from the burden of trying to manage everyone else.
Exactly. You stop wasting energy on what you cannot control, like the weather or a teenager's questionable life choices about dinner venues.
And it fundamentally shifts the power dynamic. The source uses this seesaw analogy, which I think is really helpful.
Yeah, explain that.
Okay, so when you internalize other people's negative actions or feelings as evidence that you are somehow flawed, like, say, feeling inferior because a friend didn't invite you on a trip, you give them immense power. The seesaw tips entirely, sinking you down under the weight of their disapproval or their actions.
But when you say let them, you're basically rejecting the assumption that their actions reflect your worth. You free yourself from that weight.
It's like pushing off the ground on your side of the seesaw, tipping the power immediately back to you. They're allowed to think what they want, they're allowed to mess up, but their thoughts and mistakes don't define your worth or drive your emotional state.
Right. But, and this is a really important but, this is where we have to pause, because simply stopping at let them is where the danger lies.
Okay, how so?
Our sources clearly state that if all you ever do is say let them, it can lead to isolation, withdrawal, even a kind of moral superiority.
Like you just sit back in judgment, maybe gossiping about the taco bar idiots, and you become awkward and disconnected.
Exactly. You don't actually change your life or your relationships for the better. You've just chosen apathy, essentially.
Okay, so you haven't solved the problem. You've just disengaged. This is why the second half is crucial. The let me era.
Yes. This shifts the focus immediately and constructively to what you can control and what you need to do next. It transforms that mental space created by let them, that feeling of freedom, into practical, constructive action.
The exclusion spiral example really nails this transformation, I think. The author described seeing her girlfriends post photos online from this fun, clearly amazing trip.
And her immediate old reaction was, as she put it, full stalker mode. Obsessing over who was there, why wasn't she invited, scrolling through all the comments, just feeling rejected, insecure, confused.
Oh, that internal dialogue can torture you for days, right? You construct these elaborate scenarios about why you were excluded. The old reaction would have been to obsess, maybe try to fix it somehow, or even turn the friends into villains in your head.
Totally. But the new reaction, using the full framework, was instantaneous. Step 1. Let them go on the trip and live their lives. They are absolutely allowed to plan a weekend with whomever they want. Release that need for approval. That frees up the emotional space.
Yeah. Step 1, release. Then step 2, the crucial let me part. When she stopped spiraling and sort of looked in the mirror, metaphorically speaking.
Right. She had to take responsibility for her role in the situation. The thought process becomes, let me look in the mirror and realize I haven't actually invested much in those friendships lately, or I haven't reached out. Let me prioritize my social life and proactively invite people out.
It's the difference between passive resentment and active creation. You realize maybe you weren't actively excluded, they were just living their lives, and you hadn't made the necessary effort to maintain that connection.
Exactly. Let me be more proactive. That's how you start creating the relationships you actually desire, instead of just passively waiting for an invitation that might never come.
Let's move to how this theory creates immediate peace, because it's not just about relationships. And we have to bring in some science here, because our sources highlight how stress actively hijacks your ability to choose peace.
Yeah, this is where Dr. Aditi Nerurkar, a physician at Harvard Medical School, really weighs in. She explains that stress isn't just a feeling. It's a profound physiological state that literally flips a switch in your brain.
Okay.
Normally, your prefrontal cortex, the PFC, is in charge. Think of the PFC as the CEO of your brain. It handles planning, complex decision-making, organization, patience. That's where your best, most rational self lives.
Right, the adult brain.
But the second you perceive stress, and that stressor doesn't have to be like a saber-toothed tiger anymore. It can be a slow cashier, a long line, a mean email. Your brain instantly switches into survival mode.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. And because survival mode demands speed and energy redirection, the PFC is basically knocked offline. It's no longer in control.
And when the PFC goes right out the window, as the source puts it,
so does your patience, your long-term goals, your ability to be non-reactive. You just revert to this primal, reflexive behavior, which helps explain why those daily annoyances, like traffic or a colleague's passive aggression, can feel so profoundly infuriating. You're literally operating from the emotional, reactive part of your brain.
That makes so much sense. Which brings us to applying the theory to daily chaos, like the infamous coughing plane passenger example.
Oh yeah, the annoyance builds. You start thinking, ugh, I can't afford to get sick right now. That fear triggers survival mode.
And you lash out, maybe passive-aggressively glaring, or you do the totally futile thing of turning around and demanding, sir, could you please cover your mouth? Like, that ever works.
Right. You're wasting immense energy trying to control a stranger's respiratory hygiene, which you absolutely cannot do. The hack here is immediate self-protection. Use it, great. Let them to just soften the irritation and accept the reality that you cannot control the cougher. Let them cough.
Okay, so you accept it, then you immediately pivot to the let me action. In this case, it's what?
Let me take another breath. Deep, slow breaths actually stimulate the vagus nerve.
Ah, the vagus nerve. I've heard about this.
Yeah, think of it as the main highway for your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the system that tells your body, all clear, calm down. This simple action sends a calming message directly back to the brain, resetting that immediate survival response.
So the crucial control shift is realizing that you are responsible for your own well-being. not the stranger coughing next to you.
Precisely. You cannot control the cougher, but you absolutely can control your response. The most powerful solution is focusing on your own needs. Putting on a mask, maybe asking to move seats if possible, or simply accepting the noise while you actively calm your internal state. Let me handle my protection.
That shift from managing others to managing self is really the heart of the theory, isn't it? Okay, now let's tackle maybe the biggest mental energy drain of all. The tyranny of others' opinions.
Oh, yes. This fear of judgment is arguably the biggest roadblock to creating the life you actually want. The fear of what people might think just paralyzes us.
It makes us procrastinate, obsess over perfectionism, perpetually doubt ourselves.
And this fear becomes our roadmap. We end up constantly trying to predict and preempt others' negative reactions, effectively handing over all our power to hypothetical critics.
The source material gives this stark example. 2 years. I want us to linger on the cost of this fear for a second.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. The author was building her motivational speaking career, remember, massive financial stakes, needing to get out of huge debt, and she was advised, very practically, to build a simple website and start posting actively on social media to show she was a serious player in the industry.
Okay, straightforward advice.
She knew the formula. She had the expertise, but she couldn't bring herself to post actively on social media for 2 full years.
2 years, why?
Because her early followers were mostly friends and family, and the internal dialogue was just toxic. Who does she think she is, trying to be some kind of guru? She's such a phony. They're all going to laugh.
Oh, that internal critic is brutal.
She exhausted herself trying to draft the perfect caption that would promote her business, but somehow guarantee that no one would think a single negative thought. Created hundreds of drafts, apparently, then just deleted them all.
Wow. That fear cost her valuable time, money, momentum, proving that she was prioritizing the hypothetical judgment of others over her actual ability to get ahead and dig out of debt.
The solution is radically liberating, and it's the core of the let them principle applied to judgment.
Yeah.
You simply cannot control what someone else thinks, period.
Yeah.
You have to give people the freedom to think negative thoughts about you.
Let them?
Let them.
Yeah.
You have to choose to live your life in a way that makes you proud of yourself, regardless of external validation or criticism.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. I love the idea of let them, but doesn't this risk becoming like moral indifference if you apply it too broadly? How do we stop this from turning into total apathy towards, legitimate social responsibilities or feedback?
That's a really important distinction, and the sources address it. The core of let them isn't apathy. It's about recognizing where your agency actually ends. You're not letting them off the hook for bad behavior, necessarily.
Okay.
You're letting them own their emotions and opinions so that you can reclaim your peace and your energy. If someone thinks you're a phony for trying something new, that's often a reflection of their own internal cynicism or fear, not your reality. You don't have to internalize that or engage with it. You're simply stepping away from the power struggle over their thoughts.
Got it. So it's more of a self-preservation move, not an indifference move. And the truth is, pleasing everyone is impossible anyway, which is perfectly illustrated by that high-stakes birthday weekend dilemma anecdote.
Oh yeah, that one's a classic. The author drove 4 hours to attend a friend's milestone birthday party, stayed late, trying to be supportive.
Okay, good friend move.
Then drove another 4 hours the very next morning to see her grandparents, trying to fulfill that obligation too.
Wow, that's a lot of driving and effort. Trying to be the perfect friend and the perfect granddaughter.
Exactly. A Herculean effort to maintain approval on both sides. And yet, she failed universally.
Wow.
The friend was apparently upset she left early, whispering to someone else, why did she even bother coming?
Ouch.
And then her mother criticized her for arriving late to see the grandparents, saying something like, your grandmother was so disappointed you weren't here last night.
You just can't win. The lesson is undeniable. Even bending over backward to satisfy every single external demand won't guarantee a positive opinion.
Not even close. So let them be mad that you left early or arrived late. And the second most important part is the let me focus. Don't let guilt or the endless pursuit of external approval drive your decisions. Let me act in a way that aligns with my values and makes me proud of myself. That's the only scorecard that ultimately matters. Okay, the moment we start applying this framework to our relationships, spouses, kids, colleagues, parents, is when things can get intensely personal and maybe a bit uncomfortable, especially when dealing with what the sources call emotional immaturity.
Right. We have to face the reality that many adults still operate with the emotional capacity of, say, an 8-year-old sometimes.
We see it all the time, don't we? Passive aggression, pouting, giving the silent treatment, or having these explosive emotional outbursts over really minor issues.
Mm-hmm. The critical step in applying the theory here is recognizing that it is simply not your responsibility to manage another adult's emotions.
The silent treatment is maybe the perfect example of this kind of immaturity. It's a calculated tactic, whether conscious or not, designed to force you to soothe them.
Yeah, to make you come over and apologize by asking, what did I do wrong? What's wrong? This makes them the focus and avoids them having to actually process their own sadness or anger or disappointment.
Exactly. So when someone pulls this, the instruction from the theory is simple. Let them. Let them have their silence.
And the source material offers this brilliant little visualization tool here to prevent you from getting emotionally sucked into their drama.
Whoa, yeah, this one's powerful. Visualize an actual 8-year-old child trapped inside the adult's body who's giving you the silent treatment or pouting.
Huh. Okay, I can see how that would work. That image immediately shifts your reaction, right? From feeling fear or obligation or even contempt.
To compassion, or at least a bit of detachment. You realize their inability to process sadness or anger maturely is likely a failure in their coping mechanism, not a reflection of your failure to manage them properly.
That helps you draw healthier boundaries because you're not taking the bait. Your internal thought becomes, let me stay calm and centered. I don't have to fix this tantrum.
Exactly. Now let's look at motivating change in loved ones, which so often devolves into resentment and total gridlock. We've all been there, trying to get someone to change a habit.
Mm-hmm. And pressure, nagging, giving ultimatums, dropping those critical little hints like, are you sure you need that donut? It just creates massive resistance.
It absolutely creates resistance because the other person's hardwired survival instinct, deep down, demands that they feel in control of their own life and decisions. When you pressure them, you're essentially threatening their sense of agency.
And they naturally dig their heels in and resist, even if they secretly agree with you. Your control attempts create a battle over control, not a positive change.
So how do we pivot? How do we move from demanding control to offering influence?
No.
The key is you cannot motivate them. You can't force the feeling of drive onto someone else, but you can potentially inspire them.
By modeling the change yourself and leveraging some behavioral neuroscience.
Right. And the source material provides this incredible, really practical tool for breaking this kind of gridlock, which we're calling the ABC loop. This is essential if you're frustrated by a loved one's behavior, say a spouse who refuses to take care of their health.
Okay, lay out the ABC loop. A is for.
A is apologize and ask. You have to start by genuinely apologizing for your past judgment or pressure, saying something like, hey, I'm really sorry I've been nagging you about this. I know that hasn't helped.
Wow, that takes humility. But I can see how it would instantly neutralize the tension.
It does. Then you use techniques from motivational interviewing, asking open-ended, non-judgmental questions like, how do you actually feel about your health right now? Or what change, if any, have you maybe considered making?
So you're encouraging them to reflect on the disconnect between what they might want for themselves and their current behavior, creating internal self-generated tension, not external pressure.
Precisely. And here's where you need to do some deep analytical work internally, using the 5 whys technique to find the root of your own frustration.
Okay, let's walk through a quick hypothetical, like the health example.
Right. Why are you so frustrated he won't go to the doctor? Answer 1, because I worry he's hiding something serious.
Okay. Why does that worry matter so much to me? Answer 2, because I'm afraid he'll get really sick.
Why does his potential sickness matter so deeply? Answer 3, because I really need him around. I depend on him.
Why do I need him around? Answer 4, because I honestly cannot imagine my future without him, and maybe I need his support financially and emotionally.
And boom. Answer 5. The root isn't just concern for him, it's my profound fear of loss and my own need for control over my life security. It's not just about his lack of motivation.
That's a powerful realization.
Yeah.
When you realize the pressure has been partly about your fear all along, it's maybe easier to drop the nagging and just focus on modeling healthy behavior yourself.
Exactly. Which leads to step B, back off and observe their behavior. Stop the pressure completely. Give them time and space to let that internal tension created in step A kind of marinate.
Right, because that tension needs time to potentially transform into genuine internal motivation.
Yep. And during this period, you must continue to model the change you want to see. Like you keep going for your morning walk or preparing healthy meals while you truly let them be. No checking in, no subtle hints.
Okay, that requires patience. What's C?
And finally, step C is celebrate progress and continue to model change. Here we bring in Dr. Tali Sharot's research, which shows that immediate positive rewards boost intrinsic motivation far more effectively than criticism or pointing out flaws.
So acknowledge small effort immediately.
Yes, if they finally hop on the Peloton for just 10 minutes, don't critique their form or ask why it wasn't longer. Give them a big, genuine hug when they finish and say something simple like, hey, that's great, or you look strong.
We're fusing the hard work with pleasure on a neurological level, making them more likely to want to repeat the behavior.
That's the neuroscience behind it. Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's talk about family and in-laws. These dynamics are often particularly deep and tricky.
Yeah, because family isn't just individuals, it's an interconnected system. Any personal change you make, like getting divorced, moving away, changing careers, it sends shockwaves through everyone's expectations.
And people react, often dramatically, sometimes with deep judgment, because your change disrupts their status quo or their picture of how things should be.
The ultimate tool for navigating this, according to the source, is understanding their frame of reference.
Yes. The author recounts her own mother being noticeably unexcited, even critical, about her marrying someone from the East Coast and moving away from the Midwest. Initially, she felt deeply judged and really hurt by that reaction.
Understandable.
But she forced herself to try and view it through her mother's lens, her lived experience.
And what was that?
Her mother had moved far away from her own family when she was young and had faced profound loneliness and a real lack of support. So her reaction wasn't really judgment of the fiancé.
It was an expression of her own past grief and her fear that her daughter would experience that same painful loneliness.
Exactly. And realizing that changes everything. Understanding their frame of reference doesn't mean you have to agree with their opinion or excuse bad behavior, but it creates space for acceptance and understanding. It replaces the power struggle with potential connection.
You can accept that two opposing truths can exist at once. My mother sounds judgmental when she says that, and my mother is terrified of me being lonely based on her own pain. You can let them express their fear without taking it purely as a personal attack.
Right. Now, we absolutely must address the line where simple acceptance isn't enough, where intervention is necessary, like when someone is truly struggling with addiction or severe mental health issues.
Okay, this is critical. If someone is in immediate danger, like clearly intending to drink and drive or expressing suicidal thoughts, you must intervene. Call for help, take the keys, whatever is needed, period. Let them does not apply to immediate safety risks.
Absolutely. But for sustained healing, the hard truth, the one that often hurts the most, is that people generally only heal when they are ready to do the work for themselves.
And this brings us to the danger of rescuing, which often turns into enabling. The source material warns very clearly. The more you rescue an adult financially by paying their bills or emotionally by constantly fixing their problems, the more they often sink.
Why? Because they never have to face the natural consequences of their own actions or choices. They don't develop resilience.
The analogy used is perfect. You are throwing the ball represents the chance to take responsibility, and they must choose to catch it. Enabling is when you see they drop the ball, so you run over, grab it, and run the bases for them.
Exactly. So the let me action here is, let me stop throwing the ball if they refuse to catch it. You must resist the urge to pick it up and run for them, allowing them to feel the discomfort of their choices, which might be the very thing they need to finally decide to change.
This often applies directly to financial independence. The source is blunt. If you are financially tied to someone, paying their rent, their phone bill, their credit card debt, they essentially get a vote on how you live your life because you're entangled and codependent.
If you want true independence for yourself, the action is, let me become financially independent and set firm, clear boundaries about money.
The powerful anecdote about the author's husband's brother refusing to loan him money to save his crumbling business really illustrates this painful principle.
Yeah, it was apparently a moment of excruciating pain for the husband, but also profound honest support from the brother. That refusal, that no, forced the husband to finally hit rock bottom and say, okay, I quit. This isn't working.
And that painful refusal was actually the breakthrough that launched the next, ultimately much more successful chapter of their lives together. Sometimes the loving thing is letting someone face the consequences.
Yeah, often is. Okay, finally in this section, let's talk about choosing the love you deserve, particularly in dating.
Dating shouldn't be about chasing the wrong people or playing games. It really must be about being discerning and choosing relationships that align with what you truly want and deserve.
And you have to trust this fundamental truth. People's behavior tells the actual truth about how they feel about you. It really is that simple sometimes. If they like you, genuinely like you, and want a relationship, you'll know.
And if they don't, or they're unsure, they're just not that into you, you'll be confused.
Exactly. Confusion is your answer. So the strategy here is let them reveal. Stop trying to decode the mixed signals or make excuses for flaky behavior.
Let them not text back for days. Let them send confusing hot and cold signals.
And then the action. Let me see them for who they are showing themselves to be right now and accept the truth that you are clearly not a priority for them. Stop investing your precious energy in people who demonstrate they do not want to prioritize you.
Oof. That's tough, but necessary. And what if you're already in a committed relationship and you apply that ABC loop we talked about, but core incompatibilities remain?
Then you face the deal-breaker decision. The source puts it starkly. You must choose to either end your endless complaining and accept the situation as it is, or you must choose to end the relationship.
Because if the core issue requires one of you to compromise fundamental dreams or values, like wanting kids versus not wanting kids, moving cities for a career, different core beliefs, you might simply be incompatible long-term, even if you still love each other.
Right. In that case, the ultimate let me is let me choose alignment with my own core needs and values, even if it's painful.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the last major area where we tend to drain our power. Comparison. We all do it. Life isn't fair, and comparison seems like unavoidable human nature.
It really is. But the problem isn't the noticing, it's what you do with that feeling of comparison. The key mindset shift is realizing you are not playing against anyone else. You are playing with the cards you were dealt. The goal is simply to focus on what you can do with your hand.
And we have to make this critical distinction the sources highlight between the two types of comparison. The first type is just torture.
Right. This is when you obsess over fixed attributes you absolutely cannot change. Your height, maybe an inherent talent someone else was born with, your family background, your basic body type. Any time spent dwelling here is just self-torture.
If you can't fundamentally change it, the answer is let them. Let them be taller. Let them have that natural gift. The source uses the example of the author's oldest daughter torturing herself, comparing her body type and athletic gifts, which were different, to her younger sisters. That's just wasted energy and pain.
Totally wasted. But the second type of comparison can actually be productive. We can call it teacher.
Okay, how does that work?
This is looking at the changeable aspects of someone else's success that you admire and could potentially achieve yourself. Maybe their work habits, their job success, the way they built their social media presence, their fitness routine.
So here, jealousy isn't just a negative feeling. It's framed as an invitation from your future self.
Exactly. Jealousy can point you towards something you desire. The story of the friend Molly is great here. Molly was apparently jealous of this frankly irritating neighborhood designer who had a highly successful, super organized website for her business.
Okay, relatable feeling.
Molly felt that pang of jealousy, but instead of just spiraling into resentment or inadequacy, she used the designer's success as a blueprint. Her thought became, let them lead the way.
So the designer's success wasn't necessarily due to some fixed, unattainable attribute. It was likely due to things Molly could replicate, like organization, consistency, hard work.
Precisely. The designer's website provided the formula and showed what was possible. And the secret to that kind of success, as high achievers often state, is usually just putting in the reps, being consistent, determined, and willing to do the boring hard work day after day. The let me here is, let me study their success and apply the lessons.
Okay, that reframes comparison entirely. Finally, let's wrap up with friendship and community, because loneliness, especially in adulthood, drains energy just as quickly as conflict does.
And adult friendship is tough, isn't it? Because after the structured environments of high school or college, friendship changes from being kind of a group sport with built-in proximity
to an individual sport. The source calls this phase the Great Scattering. Everyone scatters onto different timelines, different cities, different life stages, different schedules.
And adult friendships require immense flexibility because they depend on these three key pillars, according to research. Proximity. Sociologists say it takes around 200 hours of interaction to make a close friend. Timing, being in the same chapter of life, new parents connect, retirees connect, and that harder to define energy, just the click you feel with someone.
So when someone gets married or moves away or has kids or retires, the proximity and timing pillars often shift dramatically.
And it's usually not personal. Their priorities change. So the application here is, let them prioritize their new lives, their partners, their kids, their retirement. Don't take the shift as a personal rejection.
Okay, so if scattering is inevitable, what's the solution? The proactive approach.
The solution is the habit of going first. This is the ultimate let me action for building community.
Tell that story about the author feeling lonely.
Yeah. She confessed to feeling desperately lonely after a big move, just sitting closed off in her house for almost a year, basically waiting for people to find her and invite her in.
Waiting for the invitation.
Exactly. And it took her own adult daughters practically forcing her to awkwardly knock on a stranger's door down the street, feeling like an absolute loser, to finally break that passive cycle.
That awkward moment was the catalyst, though. It required her to execute these actionable let me steps.
Right. Be the first one to introduce yourself. Compliment people genuinely. It makes them feel seen. Be curious, ask questions about them, smile, and crucially, do all of this without expectation of immediate reciprocity or a best friend outcome.
You just put the positive energy out there consistently. The more you go first, the faster the right people tend to find their way to you, and the faster you start to build a real supportive community around you. Let me initiate. Okay, let's synthesize the core power of this whole let them let me theory as we wrap up this deep dive.
It really boils down to two sides of the same coin. The let them side is about radical release and just accepting reality. Release the drama, release the need to control others' opinions, release the judgment, the confusion, the fear of rejection. Just let it go.
And the let me side is about reclamation and taking action. Reclaim control over your response, your action, your energy, and your life choices.
Yeah.
This is about turning that space and peace created by let them into intentional, constructive living, taking the reins back.
And here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with today. From the source material, consider the sky metaphor. Other people, their moods, their choices, life situations in general. They're like the weather, like the sky. You can't control the clouds, you can't stop the storms, you can't change the temperature just by wishing it. They will change constantly, regardless of your effort or worry.
Right.
But you can always choose how you navigate beneath that sky. You can choose to carry an umbrella, you can seek shelter, or you can even choose to dance in the rain sometimes. The question is, why would you ever entrust something as precious as your peace, your confidence, and your happiness to the ever-changing, uncontrollable whims of the sky or other people?
That's powerful because the cost of inaction, of not using this framework, is just too high. The cost of not using let them is all that wasted time and energy resisting reality, chasing fleeting approval that never satisfies.
And the cost of not using let me is all the missed opportunities. The career you didn't pursue because you feared judgment, the book you never wrote, the person you were afraid to love authentically, the community you never built because you waited to be invited.
But if you are not where you want to be right now, the really great news is you hold the power to change it the second you decide to. This framework offers that liberation.
It's time to be laser focused on the things you can actually control. Your thoughts, your actions, your boundaries, your effort.
So we welcome you now, officially, to your let me era. Let me get started on that thing I've been avoiding. Let me take a small risk. Let me stop giving my energy to people who clearly don't value me back. Let me create a life that makes me proud. Start that one small thing today.
We truly believe in your ability to unlock all the magic and joy that your life has to offer. And if you don't quite believe in you just yet, let me believe in you until you do.
And if this deep dive empowered you, if it gave you practical tools you needed to tackle a challenge in your life, please honor the value you received right now. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear this message.
And please subscribe to the deep dive for more knowledge that turns complexity into clear, actionable power.
Thank you for diving deep with us today.